Why, hello, strangers. This is Blake here, and welcome to my review of Captain Phillips. Yeah, I'm a little late to the party on this one. First off, I want to apologize if I sound disoriented at all during this review. I didn't get to sleep till really late last night, and I was woken up by the noise of the exterminator drilling holes in the bottom of the house so he can kill some termites. So I got like 2 hours of sleep maybe, and I'm feeling really tired, and I'm going to get back to that as soon as I'm done filming this. So why was I so late in getting to Captain Phillips? I guess other movies just kept pushing it out of the way. I thought from the beginning that this looked like a good film. I thought the trailer at least made it seem like it was going to be a solid flick, and the reviews were very positive. But every week since it came out, there'd just be something that caught my attention more. And since there was nothing really of interest coming out this week, I figured why not get caught up and finally give Captain Phillips a look. The only other ones I was considering was Bad Grandpa, which I don't know, it seemed like most of the people who saw it liked it, but the trailers just never really made it seem that funny to me. And there's this other one with Robert Redford where he's a sailor who gets lost out at sea that's getting some good hype, but it sounded like a real art house type film, which isn't my cup of tea. I don't mind watching them, but I prefer seeing them on the small screen. So Captain Phillips it was. So, was this film as good as I hoped it would be? Yes. Is it a great movie? No. It might be really good though. It's somewhere between good and great. When it succeeds at something, it succeeds really well. At times, too well. But I'll discuss that over time. Okay, so I don't want to say the first half, but the first act is, the pirates attack the ship, and it's really, really exciting. There's not too much downtime leading up to what occurs. It seems like within the first 15-20 minutes, shit is happening, and I loved just watching all the different strategies unfold. Some of the ways they try to shrug off the pirates are actually incredibly creative, but I would have never even thought about them. Like, for example, they're trying to go as fast as they could, obviously to put distance between them and the pirates, but it's also generating waves which they're trying to use to knock the pirates off these small boats. That was pretty cool. Then of course you had the fire hoses, which you see in the trailers, and once they start getting on, they're trying to like quickly move the ship to the left or right to knock them off, and it was just really intense, really exciting, and thoroughly enjoyable. But once they get on the boat, the tone kind of shifts. It's no longer exciting, and now it's just really intense and uncomfortable. As the pirates are trying to find the crew, the captain, played by Tom Hanks, the title of character, is trying to outsmart them. There's a lot of close calls and, really terse situations. And, once again, I was still really into it, and this is probably between the first act is maybe 30 minutes or so. It could be a little longer. It was a fairly long movie. Then the next 40 minutes is them on the ship as, shit's really going down. And, like I said, it was really intense, very white-knuckled in terms of its, how it delivers the suspense. But then they have when Tom Hanks goes in, where they decide to take Tom Hanks hostage. And so now they're in this lifeboat. And this is when the movie started to kind of lose me. It's not that the film becomes any less good. This is going to be difficult to describe. Well, for one, I did think that the pacing kind of hit a snag. The first half was really fast-paced, and but then it slows down a lot during the second half. And I'm going to refer to my review of Gravity. Some commenter complained that, or made a statement that, people, whenever a film tries to build character, people complain that it's slowing down, and that kind of annoyed me because that wasn't true, or at least that wasn't the point I was trying to make. I'm all for building character. I just felt in the case of Gravity, it went from the first 2/3, incredibly fast paced to suddenly slowing down too much for too long. Whereas I believe if they wanted to build character like that, they should have spaced it throughout the rest of the film, or at least put most of it during the first act, to where it's not like it's the equivalent of running or going on a jog and then just stopping suddenly. You're going to stumble a bit, and that's what I thought the movie did. And this is also one of those kinds of films where it's moving so fast that when it starts slowing down, even though yes, it is trying to develop these characters, it's a noticeable stop, and it did kind of lose me, especially as this movie is pretty long, maybe even too long. There is a lot of shots or like small scenes involving bit characters that I didn't really feel was necessary, but minor issues there. But where I have to admit, this is a little embarrassing for me to say, is I thought it was almost too effective in certain areas. See, the first act was more about being exciting. The second act was being more about intense. I probably shouldn't be breaking up by their various acts, because the way it manages its time is very unconventional there. But then, like, when it gets to the final act, which is really closer to the second half of the movie, it becomes incredibly claustrophobic and uncomfortable, to the point where I was just like, come on, let's get out of this freaking location. I'm really claustrophobic, and sometimes when a movie utilizes that so effectively for a prolonged period of time, it starts to really bug me. And like a lot of the cinematography and the way the director frames various shots, it's to be intentionally uncomfortable. You do really feel that these guys are cramped in this, in these close quarters, and all the people are yelling. There's tensions running high. Everybody's sweating, and it's hot and sticky. It's so gross. I would have been driven insane if I was put in that situation, and thanks to the director, I felt like I was put in that situation. You really do feel like you're part of this crew, and it's really agonizing for somebody like me. And like, there's this part where they put on these lights in order to blind the pirates, and like, once again, it's just like how the character's like, shit, what's going on? I was like, oh, come on. It was hellish for me, and it's not because the movie was doing it poorly, it was doing it too well. So yeah, that's a very, very biased criticism. That's not even really a criticism, because movies are supposed to put you in whatever situation the main characters are in, and it's just for a movie I love is The Descent, which also really plays up claustrophobia, but at least it did it more in parts. So for good chunks of the movie, just a typical monsters chase girls scenario, but then there's those few moments where they get stuck or whatever that bothered me, but at least that was in moments, so that heightened the experience. This just goes on too long, where I felt like I was stuck in this situation, and eventually I was just sweating myself. I was just like, please just hurry up and get over with. But otherwise, it is an objectively well-made film. I thought Paul Greengrass really stepped up his game. I've always been kind of mixed on his skills, but he did a spectacular job here. The acting is phenomenal all around. I really got to give credit to the guys who played the villains, because they could have easily been caricatures, just one-dimensionally evil, but no, they were very human. Some of them you sympathized more with than others, but I've always felt that villains who are portrayed as being human are significantly scarier than one-note villains who are just always doing evil things and always acting evil. I guess that just adds by making them more human, there's a lot more realism to them, which just makes them more frightening, in my opinion. But still, these guys did a great job, especially the main one, and you're not really sure if you want to sympathize with them. You almost at times want them to get away with the money, but never for too long before, it's never too long before you're reminded that these guys are doing some really bad things, and you should not be rooting for them. So I thought those characters were handled very well. Tom Hanks is superb. This is one of the best performances I've seen from him in a long time. It seems like, then again, I haven't really seen too many of his recent movies, because most of them are just not my cup of tea. But even when it came to like Angels and Demons or The Da Vinci Code and a few other films that I have watched in the past few years, he's doing a competent but kind of uninspired job in terms of his acting. But here he gets quite a bit to do, where he gets to show off a variety of emotions, and he, I thought, nailed this role perfectly. At times his accent does slip, but it never went on for too long, and I was always impressed by just how he was able to convey various emotions. I also like just some of the supporting cast members, like his crew. Nobody's totally incompetent, but people are, are going to make some mistakes, and some mistakes you could argue, for and against. Like I interpreted the captain going into the lifeboat as a mistake, but the movie never really rubs us in on that. You could make your own decision, and I thought that was pretty cool. And so yeah, I thought this was a really good film, and everybody should watch it. Maybe not in theaters. I'd say it's at least worth a rental, but yeah, I mean, I think it's also good enough to see in the theaters. It just depends on whether this is your kind of movie or not. You have to really consider everything that has been said about it. So that is all I have. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I did some written reviews. Let's see what I did recently. I can never remember. The Orphanage, a Spanish ghost film directed or produced by Guillermo del Toro. Second in Command, a Jean-Claude Van Damme direct-to-DVD action movie. Kiss of the Damned, which is like a vampire erotica thriller, very art house, and then Disciples of Shaolin, which is a kung fu flick that doesn't contain any mention of Shaolin. And I'll be doing a few other written reviews over the course of the weekend. I'm not really sure what's coming up next, but I have quite a few things on the chopping block. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later.